it. You know, somebody asked me once, what's the difference between being a movie actor and a movie star? And I said, for me personally, the difference has been that your films are not reviewed anymore, your life is. And that's when it gets real painful.
And this is Starring the Actors, where some of your favorite performers and mine will talk to us about just how they do their work. Today's guest is Mr. Burt Reynolds. Now, Burt has starred in over 40 feature films, 3 television series, and he's the only actor other than Bing Crosby and Shirley Temple to be named 5 years in a row as #1 box office star in the country. But we're not so concerned about that today. Today, it's Burt the actor. As a matter of fact, from our first film, Burt the comic actor. This is a scene with Dom DeLuise from The End.
Okay, Sonny, jump.
Don't be so anxious.
I'm sorry. I thought that's what you really wanted.
Well, I am, but it just doesn't seem high enough.
Oh, sure it's high enough.
You sure?
Oh, sure. Only one way to find out.
Stop! Will you stop? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I just got to work myself up to it gradually. You know what I mean?
You know, you'll never get hurt if you crawl down.
Don't talk to me like that. I'm the one that's doing it.
Okay.
I'm the one that's got to do it.
Okay.
All right.
You're very brave.
I am brave.
Okay.
All right.
I got you.
Listen.
Yeah.
Let me take a look before I go, okay?
Okay. It ain't high enough. What are you talking about? Sure it's It ain't high enough. If I fall and I land on my feet, I'll break my ankles, and I'll have broken ankles and a toxic blood disease both. Oh, yeah. Hey, wait a minute.
All right. Now, truth. How much of that is improvised?
Truth, about 50%.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love him so much, and he does make me laugh a lot. And I think he cares about me a little bit. And we have a kind of strange antenna with each other. And that slap, for example, was not in the picture. That was kind of an Abbott and Costello slap.
When you improvise a scene like this, do you like to start from the writer's words, or do you like to take the situation and go from that?
I usually end up back with the writer's words, quite honestly. You start with the writer's words, and you improvise, and then usually come back to the writer's words because they're the best, generally. But in a situation like this, with Dom, you play relationships. You know, it's the relationship that you're looking at more than the words.
Now, is improvising a skill you think that can be learned, or?
No, I think that's the tragedy of a lot of actors that get with actors who can improvise, and they can't. It gets rather strange. It's like playing tennis alone. You just sort of hit the ball, and it never comes back. It's just real quiet over there.
How did you and Dom work out the physical comedy in this?
Well, physical comedy is something that I knew quite a bit about because I'd done a lot of stunts and things, and I used to work in a Wild West show where I fell off the roof 8 times a day. I got shot, fell off the roof, and landed on my back on the road and got $150 a week. And I thought, boy, I'm in showbiz. And Dom came from almost a vaudeville kind of background, slapstick kind of background, where there was a lot of physical comedy. So it was very easy for the two of us to work that out, and I just sort of choreographed it like you would choreograph a fight scene.
You still do. You do your own stunts, don't you?
Well, the falls are getting smaller and smaller. I mean, I used to do them. Now, just to fall out of this chair now is pretty big for me.
But you've done, I mean, through the years, you've done...
Over the years, I've done almost all of them.
Really?
Yeah, almost all of them.
When you say almost, when do you draw the line and say that's not a stunt you're going to do?
When the producer starts to cry, usually. I mean, when I did Deliverance, John Borman, when I think back on it now, was almost mad in the sense that he let the 4 actors do everything. And we all 4 of us at one time almost drowned.
Well, where did all this begin for you? I mean, how did you start acting?
Well, there was a little school named Palm Beach Junior College. I'd gotten hurt at Florida State playing football and went home to kind of recuperate and went to this junior college, which had absolutely no sports at all. The only thing that you had there in order to be a big man on campus was the theater. And I'd never done the theater, and I thought everybody that was in the theater was very sick. As it later turned out, I was completely right. But I went and read for this play. I had no reason whatsoever to do it, but I just guts, I guess, or craziness. And it was Outward Bound, and I read for Tom Pryor, who was the alcoholic on the boat. I think Garfield played it in the movie,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And I walked out on the stage, and you know, you sort of hear that reaction from those people, and I thought, this is real nice. I like this a lot.
You went to New York then and studied?
I went to New York. I went and did summer stock at Hyde Park, New York, that summer. Again, with just kind of like for fun, you know.
I read somewhere that Rip Torn taught you some speech exercises. What were some syllables? Do you remember what that was?
Well, we went to. We both had very bad Southern accents, and I was born in Georgia, and Rip was born in Texas. And so we went to this guy named Al Malver, who was a wonderful teacher, and to lose our Southern accents. Rip still has his. He was a better actor than me, and he still is, but I lost the accent. The exercise was Potulabe Dameni, and I didn't think I had a Southern accent. And the guy had a tape recorder, which was, as you can imagine, in 1956 was a rather strange-looking tape recorder in those days. And he said, the speech teacher said, Potulabe Dameni. And I said, Potulabe Dameni. And then he played it back, and I heard, Potulabe Dameni. I said, how come mine doesn't sound like yours? And he said, well, that's why we have to fix that. So I went there every day. I went, Potulabe Dameni, Potulabe. Except every day I went, Potulabe Dameni, Potulabe Dam. So we would get on the subway coming back from there. Al Malver's class was up on 120-something Street. We would be coming back on the subway, and Rip would be going, Potulabe Dameni, Potulabe Dameni, in the subway. And, you know, you get a lot of strange people in the subway anyway, but having a guy do that out loud, and I would kind of get away from him and hide at the other end of the car, and he would shout at me, you're never going to be an actor, boy, because you're embarrassed. You're never going to be an actor. And he was damn near right, you know. I was petrified.
Now, the end was, of course, a broad farce, but that's not the only kind of comedy you do. I think it was Albert Finney who said that your work in Starting Over was one of the most subtle light comedy performances he'd ever seen. I'd like to look at a scene from that now. You're a recently divorced man, and Jill Clayburgh is your new girlfriend.
I got a job.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to teach this course at a junior college, and it looks... Do you mind if we talk about you and me?
Oh, please do.
I don't know how to put this without coming straight out with it.
I wish you would.
Well, I've got two things that I've just got to get off my mind tonight. One is I'm very nervous about teaching this class for the first time.
Why am I so sure that number 2 is the killer?
I want to have sex with you.
Gulp. I don't like the way you put that. It makes me feel very strange.
I know. It did sound a little bit like Tarzan. It's just that I was trying to avoid the whole romantic thing.
I don't like that either. I hate that. But can't you just personalize it a little? I want to have sex with you, Marilyn.
I want to have sex with you, Marilyn.
I want to have sex with you, Potter.
There's a wonderful connection and sense of intimacy that you have with Jill Clayburgh in this scene. How did you two work that out?
She's very fragile in a lot of ways. And I was playing for the first time a fragile man. And it was real important for me to be able to present that side of myself, which is usually hidden a lot of the time. And I had allowed her to see that side personally. And so she was generous in the sense that she would say, go ahead, don't be afraid, you know, show more of it. And made me feel, which I think is what every man wants to feel, that it's all right to be really vulnerable.
In starting over, did you take this part because you liked the script, or because it was a chance to grow as an actor, or?
All those things. I think if you could pick directors, you could have a great career.
Yeah.
The words are everything, but a bad director can screw up good words real easy. Pakula was real important to the project, and he didn't want me. He just said, there's no way in the world that anybody in America is going to believe that you are that fragile. And, you know, and I spent a whole evening convincing him. Started out in the afternoon, actually, and ended up being evening before I convinced him I was real fragile before that evening was over.
So at this stage in your career, you had to audition.
I have to audition right now. Right now. I mean, I was sent a script the other day, wonderful script, and I want to do it very much. But it doesn't fit into that Burt Reynolds, whatever that realm of things that people think he can do. And the director doesn't want me.
Now let's look at a scene from John Boorman's film, Deliverance. It's a study of survival in the wilderness. And this is a scene with Burt and his friend, played by John Voight.
Machines are going to fail. And the system's going to fail. And then?
And then what?
Then survival. Who has the ability to survive. That's the game. Survival.
And you can't wait for it to happen, can you? You can't wait for it. Well, the system's done all right by me.
Oh, yeah. You got a nice job. Got a nice house. Nice wife. Nice kid.
You make that sound rather shitty, Louis.
Why do you go on these trips with me, Ed?
I like my life, Louis.
Yeah, but why do you go on these trips with me?
You know, sometimes I wonder about that. Here's to you, Louis.
You're given a kind of a tough job there, because you have to state the whole survival theme of that movie and yet make it look like it's just everyday dialogue.
Yeah, it was the guy spoke in parables, you know. It was not an easy thing to bring off. I'll tell you an interesting story. You'll be the judge if it's interesting or not. I was asked to come and audition for this. And when I came to read, Boorman said some very nice things to me, and I said, what did you see that made you think I could play this part? Because I've never done anything like this. And he said, The Tonight Show. I said, what? He said, The Tonight Show. I saw you host The Tonight Show and be in control of 5 people. And this guy has to be in control, totally, of these people.
There's a very subtle but very distinct kind of contrast between you and John Voight in this scene. How did you guys work that out?
Well, we both felt that there was a almost an underlying homosexual relationship between the two guys.
Yeah.
And I felt that he wanted desperately to be Lewis. He wanted to be a risk taker, and he wasn't. And he saw in Lewis a guy that he almost idolized in a way, and yet as a man who was very repugnant to him.
How'd you develop the accent?
There's a difference between, which is what I had to tell the guys. They didn't quite understand why we were so foreign to people if we were from Atlanta. And what I tried to tell John and Ned and Ronnie was that Atlanta is a very refined kind of Southern talk. And the Southern in the hills, up where we were at, is very chopped, very clipped. What gonna do, boy? Come with me, boy? Whereas it would be, what are you gonna do with me, boy? From Atlanta.
Can you do other accents?
Yeah. I do it Indian. I do that kind of Indian, and that the big man, you know, very nice man, because I knew an Indian man very well. In fact, I have an Indian man who works for me named Raja. Raja is a very nice man, cannot cook at all, but he talks very good, and I like when he comes to me. I like when he speaks to me. Hello, Gordon. Nice to see you. I've never gotten to use it because I played a lot of these kind of Indians. I never got to play the other kind of Indians.
Did you do a lot of research and analysis of a script before you start work?
No, I don't do nearly the work that a lot of actors that I know do. I have a tendency to react more than act, to find the guy from how other people act off of me. And film being the way that it is, and having worked with a couple of very clever, not very good actors, but very clever actors early on in my career, I learned a lot of the tricks. And one of the tricks is to change your performance off camera than when you're on camera. So that suddenly if you're yelling off camera, the person on camera has a tendency to yell back. So then when they do your close-up, you're very quiet. So when it's pieced together, the other person looks hysterical, and you look like you're totally in control.
Let's take another look at a film that you acted in and directed. Sharky's Machine is a gritty, tough detective story. It takes place in Atlanta. And in this scene near the end of the film, you follow a trail of blood left by Henry Silva as a drug-addicted mob hitman.
Hello, Sharky. Do you know what I was thinking?
No.
Do you think I'll live or die?
Oh, you'll die, all right.
No, I don't think so. Not by you.
Kind of a light, frothy scene, I thought.
First of all, I have to ask Burt Reynolds, director, how about that stunt?
That was an interesting stunt. It was, I wanted it to be different, you know. I wanted it to be special because we've seen so many falls, high falls. And so I got the idea of having somebody go out of one of those glass reflective buildings. Yes, it was a stunning stunt because when he got out in the air out there, it was almost like a Tom and Jerry cartoon because he was trying to grab some air in order to turn around and get his body right to where he could get into the airbag. And I told him, try to make it as clumsy and fighting for, you know, as you can without making it look like one of those 2.5 double gainers that they usually do, you know.
How many cameras on there?
Five cameras.
Now, as the actor, you are exercising a lot of control there. You're holding that rage in until you need it. Was that easy for you?
I had to play it, as you said, very rightly, with a real quiet sense of control. Otherwise, again, this is when you have to watch what the other actors are going to do, because Henry selected the, and it was the right one, of doing it very quietly. So if I'd have been out of control, I would have been out of control.
The scene that explodes with this kind of rage, as this does at the end, what kind of preparation do you do off camera before you start that scene?
I'm not somebody that takes a lot of time to get into a rage, because it doesn't take me very long personally to get into one. I have a real short fuse, but it doesn't come out much when I'm working, because I happen to, as we talked about before, I like that nest to be positive. But I try to use my temper as a strength rather than something that tears me to pieces.
Now let's look at a scene from Best Friends. Burt and Goldie Hawn play two Hollywood writers in love.
He appears to be confused. He stopped at the door to Jacobson's office. He listens. There's no sound from within. He then very slowly takes his hand.
Are you dictating?
No.
It sounds like you're dictating.
Well, I'm not dictating.
Well, it sounds like you are. I mean, you got the ending all worked out in your
Well,
head?
hey, you can jump in any time, you know.
Well, thank you very much. It's very nice of you.
Well?
Well?
Well, what do you want to say?
Well, I'm not saying what you said wasn't all right. It's just your attitude. You're treating me like a secretary.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Would you like me to type?
Yes, I would. Especially since you got the ending all worked out in your
I
head. You
do
can put it
not
down on the
have
paper.
the ending all worked out.
Well, then what are we going to do? We ought to talk about it. We can't have Leo walking down corridors the rest of his life.
He does not have to be walking down a corridor.
Well, that's all right if he does, but what's going to happen afterwards?
Well, we were just getting to that.
No, you were getting to that. We've never discussed it.
All right, let's just discuss it now, okay? Sit down. We'll talk about it. Now, he's in the corridor, alone, right? So, I don't know. I mean, either he has to go into Jacobson's office or into his own. So what do you think? Hello? Do you have something to say?
I'm thinking.
Well, how am I supposed to know that? You're staring.
Well, what am I supposed to stare at when I'm thinking? When you think, you stare. You want me to hold up a sign that says I'm thinking?
Oh, please, forget it.
Well, what the hell are we going to do? Just because our relationship is in the toilet doesn't mean we can't work together, does it?
You can see this relationship. I think if we turned down the sound and saw the behavior of you two, we'd see what the relationship is here.
I hope so. It's two people that were really crazy about each other, that just didn't know how to be married.
I see you usually as the man of action, but in this one, you had me really convinced that you were a screenwriter. How did you set up the image of that writer fella?
Well, that's kind of the thing that we talked about before. I think that's one of those things that I had a hard time convincing people that I could be that guy, a screenwriter. And then you say to them, well, what about Sam Peckinpah? Was this a nice, quiet fellow that just sat around with a pair of glasses and wrote? I mean, wasn't he a pretty volatile guy? I mean, where is it written that a writer has to look a certain way and have a pipe and whatever? And then you'd sort of take it from there and work your way back into try to get him as not a physical person, not a guy who thinks that way, but a guy who really is a introspective, intellectual guy, and make it as believable as possible with the outer trappings of who you are.
You said recently that acting is, let me see, get the quote correct. You said it's painful and you have to be an open wound to be an actor.
Well, I think I'd like to add a line with that, to be a really good actor. I think that there are a lot of very successful actors that aren't that at all, but the ones that move me and really touch me, and I think are that vulnerable, yes.
I think you were quoted as saying you find directing more challenging than acting.
Well, it's not only more challenging, but it's so much more fun for me.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, directing is... Wells said it a long time. I mean, it's the greatest director said in the world, isn't it? I mean, it's the most fun to go out and make a movie. It's just so much fun if you have the right bunch of people with you. And if you're directing, you can sort of assemble all that group. And it's a strange feeling to have someone come in and say, do you want us to move the telephone pole? Yeah, move that pole. And, yeah, and move the road. And let's stop the planes, you know. I mean, you say all kinds of things, and somehow they just get done, you know. It's absolutely, you have to be very careful, because if you take that personality home with you, you get in a lot of trouble.
Did you ever ask anyone for advice about directing?
I asked 3 men, Orson Welles, Peter Bogdanovich, and Mel Brooks. Orson told me that the first shot in the movie is the most important shot of the picture. And I think he's right. Peter told me to always cut on movement. And Mel told me to fire somebody the first day. It's true. That's a true story.
If you had just one piece of advice to give to actors, what would it be?
Oh, boy. Be brave.
Do you love acting?
Sometimes. Sometimes I love it a lot. Sometimes it's the most painful profession in the world.
Why do you do it?
I guess because it's what I do.
In 1981, the Variety Clubs voted you Entertainer of the Year. And at that banquet, at that event, Frank Sinatra said the following: in honoring Burt Reynolds, we pay tribute to every man. He is the one the ladies like to dance with and their husbands like to drink with. He is the larger-than-life actor of our times. He is gifted, talented, naughty, and nice. And I just want to thank you for coming here and telling us how you do your work. It's been a real treat.
Good. Thank you.
And thanks for joining us on Starring the Actors.